Welcome to Digital Health Session. We are starting our session from the keynote of Markus Kalliola at the moment. This year, we defined the Digital Health Session with the title European Data Health Space, the new dimension of digital health. Recently, we understand in Europe how important is healthcare, how important is our for the human life. Digital health brings a lot to this the healthcare. We understand that health is bodiless, and this defines the new dimension of European integration. We are united in Europe nowadays, and digital health can bring a lot of benefits to our societies, to our communities. We will tackle this during this session. So I would like to welcome Markus Kalliola. It's a great pleasure for us to have keynote addressed by Markus regarding the importance of digital health, especially as he is deeply involved in these new activities in Europe related to defining digital health, digital data space. Markus, welcome.
Thank you, Artur. Very happy to be here today in this very important time conference. So my keynote today is titled The European Health Data Space, a New Dimension of the Digital Health. As Artur explained, I'm Markus Kalliola. I work for the Finnish Innovation Fund as a project director, also coordinating the joint action towards the European Health Data Space. So my keynote comes with three parts. First, about the EU objectives for data and the data strategy, European Health Data Space and the joint action that I just mentioned. And finally, the role of industry and stakeholders, as I learned that many of you are industry members or stakeholders, and what is your role in building the European Health Data Space. So it all starts from the data, of course. The data, as the European Commission defined it in the new commission that started in 2019, they took the data as one of the key elements of the whole commission, and within the first 100 days published the first outcome of the commission related to the data and digital. They defined the data as an essential resource for economic growth, competitiveness, innovation and job creation, and also social progress in general. But the European Union and the European Commission didn't want that the model that are currently prevailing in the data economy would be the model for the Europe. So we have currently mostly the US model in place, where the data is held by few large companies and their platforms. The other model coming from China, which is mostly stately driven. The European Union wants a model that respects the European values, including citizen rights. So within the first 100 days, as I said, the European Commission published what they called the data strategy. And this data strategy is something that is being implemented at the moment. It is implemented through different financial programs, but also with the new legal proposals and new legal framework. I have one picture regarding the European data strategy and how the data spaces are important in that. If you want to have a starting point for the European health data strategy and the data spaces, I think the GDPR could be taken as a starting point. It started the new legal framework for how we use data. But now we have had a lot of new proposals within the last few years, including Data Governance Act, Digital Services Act, Digital Market Act, AI Act, and lately the Data Act. So we are laying grounds for a new framework how we use data for all purposes in EU. Different sectors and what are called data spaces are important part of that function. The data spaces will ensure that more data becomes available for use in economy and society, while keeping the companies and us individuals who generate the data in control. So you can see health as one big part of this whole data strategy and the European health data space. So that will be our main topic today. So let's talk about health then in more detail. You might have heard lately the word health union. So what is this new concept of a European health union? It is basically a response for the COVID and the cross-border threats that we are facing and what we have faced within the last few years. So to protect the health of Europeans and collectively respond to the cross-border health threats. The health union stands on a few main pillars. The first one is strengthening the coordination at EU level and revising the mandates of a few key institutions such as the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control and the European Medical Agency. There's also a new authority that the health union has presented. It's called the European Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority, also known as HERA. It deals with health emergencies to develop and produce and procure medical countermeasures before and during the health crisis. For example, stockpiling necessary medical products. Also, the pharmaceutical strategy has been published with the aim to renew the Pharma Act this year. And finally, the cancer plan is also part of the health union. So a lot of different activities within this big term of health union. But that data is also part of everything that I just mentioned. Data lies beneath all the actions that are being prepared. So for example, the Beating Cancer Plan, which is one of the flagship project of the European Union, says that it cannot basically function without health data. So the health data space that is part of the data strategy that was presented even before the COVID is one of the key priorities of the Commission at the moment. In the State of the Union speech a couple of years back, Ursula von der Leyen said that we need these common data spaces, especially in the healthcare sector. The EU Council then stressed the importance of the health and put in priority from all data spaces to the health data space. The Commission started working, and now we can expect the legal proposal within the Q2 this year. So what is this European health data space then all about? I think you could put it into two parts: the primary part of health data and the secondary use of health data. Now, the primary part of the health data is when, for example, the EU citizens travel to another member state, and if they need their medication, they can go to the local pharmacy and use the prescription that was given to them at their home country. Or if they travel and they get into an accident, the health data, the patient summary data, could be utilized for their care where they are being treated. So this is the primary side of health data, to treat patients for better healthcare and the cross-border function of that. The secondary use of health data is then when the same data that is being collected in our care is used for better policy making or research and innovation. And within the COVID, we have seen that the health data is really needed in policy making, and not only in healthcare, but also to keep the societies open. So the secondary use of health data is becoming more and more important. Both of these type of use of data are very difficult at the moment in EU, for the reasons that there are different legal and governance legislations all around Europe, different interpretations of the GDPR. The data is not semantically interoperable, and we lack common infrastructure. So these are the topics that we need to take into the European health data space, into the new legislation, so that we could function better in the future. And the joint action that I'm leading and coordinating is taking care of the secondary part of the European health data space, the secondary use of health data, making proposals and options for the European Commission and the member states, who are then the final decision makers on how to build the European health data space. This joint action that I mentioned includes 25 European countries, and we started working last year. You can read more information from our website, but we are very much looking forward for the European Commission proposal that is coming out in the next few months, to see also how we can then work further with the European Commission and the member state in the years to come. So I want to finish with the industry part. So a lot of listeners today in this conference are representing industry. So what is your role in the European Health Data Space and the European Health Union? I would say I started my presentation with saying that data is essential for economic growth, competitiveness, and innovation. Now, of course, that all starts with the companies. So if you want to start and be part of this European Health Data Space, I would encourage you to take part of some of the biggest projects in EU at the moment that are being created by the industry members. So for example, the International Data Spaces Association, Gaia X, and there are also other initiatives, but these are just to mention a few. So it all starts with collaborating. So best to start somewhere and participate these pan-European projects as an industry member. So that's all from me. I'm looking forward for the good discussion that we could hold on these important topics.
Thank you, Markus, for your excellent and in-depth and but as well comprehensive introduction to this important topic as the data economy in Europe. You mentioned from the beginning that we are aiming in Europe to build our own model in line with our values of data economy. Could you elaborate on what are the key features of this model and how the industry can, the companies can contribute to this model?
Thank you, Artur. I think it's a very relevant question. On the other hand, we cannot at the moment yet exactly state how the European Health Data Space will be built, as we haven't seen the legal proposal. But the European model is basically built on a federated network. So it's not a single IT system where, for example, the health data will be pooled, but member states will participate as a federated network and to the nodes. And of course, the industry will have a big part of the European Health Data Space, and we'll see them as a key stakeholder in that.
Thank you. I think we are coming to the key word as interoperability or cooperation in Europe. So this is our strength and one of our key values, that we are sharing the opportunities among all the nations of Europe to build a great future for us and the global world.
Yes, I fully agree with that. And I would hope that a lot of Polish members and industry members and the public sector alike would be key part in building the European Health Data Space, as we see Poland as a good large contributor for the EU.
Thank you a lot for sharing with us your thoughts. Thank you, Markus.
Thank you.
We had the opportunity to listen to the keynote speech from Markus Kalliola about importance of data in healthcare, importance of data in the digital economy we are building. And now we had the pleasure, and I have the honor to welcome our distinguished panelists who will join the discussion around our topic of data in healthcare. We have the European Health Data Space, a new dimension of digital healthcare. So I would like to welcome Mr. Radosław Sierpiński, President of Medical Research Agency in Poland, new created agency of Ministry of Health. Welcome. Hello. I have the pleasure to welcome Hans-Peter Bursig, Managing Director, Division Medical Engineering, ZVEI, Germany. Hello.
Thank you.
We have a pleasure to have Director Michał Kępowicz, Director for Strategic Relation and Market Access in Philips. Hello, Michał.
Hello.
And Rafał Szmuc, CEO of CliniNote, a new promising startup in Poland who is purely dedicated to the data and healthcare. So we have the opportunity to understand about that. Gentlemen, I would like to ask you about your perception of these new challenges in healthcare in Europe, and about the contribution of digital health to addressing these challenges and providing the solution. So I would like to ask how you see that, and also ask you to comment the keynote from Markus Kalliola. So I would like to start from Hans-Peter Bursig, just asking you to share your German experience in digital health, your recent progress, and also what you discover in Europe, what is important nowadays in progressing in this transformation of healthcare systems across Europe.
Thank you for inviting me to this panel, and I'm looking forward to the discussion with the other panelists. From a German perspective, in the past years, Germany has built a national technical infrastructure for the German health system. This is called the telematic infrastructure, or TI. A number of electronic services, and I'm deliberately saying electronic services, related to the operation of the German health system have been established on this platform. And now, as there is more electronic exchange between different parts of the health system, Germany has made first steps to really digital health. We're talking about introducing e-prescriptions and introducing an electronic patient or health record as new services, again, on the telematic infrastructure. And on top of that, there are digital health applications, or DiGA as they are known in Germany, which operate outside of this telematic infrastructure, but they may be linked to the electronic patient record in future. So things you have on your DiGA may enter into your patient record on the TI. All of that, small steps over the years, now have added to something that there is a strong focus on interoperability now between the various players. Once you start exchanging messages and data, you discover there is more that you would like to do, but that requires interoperability and connectivity. And to support that, Germany has just recently established a coordination office for interoperability at the federal level to promote interoperability and also to facilitate it in practice. And that is all purely German, but with what we've just heard from Markus Kalliola and also other legislation at the European level, Germany will now have to add an additional European perspective to all that has happened in order to integrate all that German environment into a European health data space and also into an emerging European health union. So we've made progress, yes, no doubt, but we're still not at the end of that road, and there is a way forward. How long it will be will depend, among other things, from what we will get as a European health data space, among other things. That would be the experience from Germany so far, and also short look into the future.
Thank you for this for this introduction. I understand that Germans would like always to measure the progress. Could you share some, let's say, insights, what you achieved, how you measure, and what you expect in terms of the measurable objectives down the road?
Well, that's the difficult part. Yes, you can measure how many doctors' offices are connected to the telematic infrastructure, and how many messages do they exchange, how many e-prescriptions. But to be honest with you, we've just started that. We've rolled out the infrastructure, but people are just beginning now to actually use it for the purposes that it was built for. So there is progress, but as so often with digital things, it is not as fast as people want it to happen. And that's the big thing right now. We have to get this operational. No, it is operational, but we have to get people to use it in a massive way. But I'm confident that this will only be a short time before we will then see that it is being used and that we will see benefits from.
Yes, the digital health is not quick. We should be persistent on our way. So coming back to Poland, I would like to ask Mr. Radosław Sierpiński to share the Polish perspective on these European trends and how the Poland is contributing to this, and how the Polish authority thinks that the Poland can benefit as well from this, what is going on in Europe. So we are, let's say, part of this new regulations, European regulations, as well as we are part in this coming, European health data space.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this very important discussion, especially because we are in a very good moment in Poland. While the digital revolution is around us, I think we are somehow in the center of it. I am not in danger by saying that the digitization of healthcare was probably the crucial of winning with COVID. The introduction of e-prescription, the electronic sick leave might be the way why the Polish healthcare did not collapse. So we are lucky that we introduced this total change in Poland. I think it was a kind of changing of paradigm in our country. But now our scope should be not to let's say, slow down, because we make a lot of things for last 2 years. Currently, we are also developing the internet account of the patient. I don't know if it's the proper translation in English, but still it is the place where all the data gathering from the system might be gathered in one place in good quality and might be important for decision makers to make the proper value-based decisions in the system. It might be very important. Of course, we also saw that COVID pandemics make the digitalization faster and faster. Currently, we have to work on this trend. And I think, especially for next few months or few years, we have to work very hard for the quality of the data, because we have to be very aware about what would be if there will be the trash in, trash out situation. We have to have very good quality of data to make the proper decisions, to be sure that those data are coming really from the system, that it would be real data, not just some data coming from some people, from some hospitals. So it is a challenge for the next few months or few years. And of course, also in this, let's say, dark time about the war in Ukraine, we have to be sure that all the data are safe, because these are the patient's data. These are very, very touchable data. So we have to be sure that all of them are gathered in a safe solution. Coming from my, let's say, institutional perspective, the Medical Research Agency is aware about the importance of data. There is a sentence that data is new currency. So we would like to be in these trends this time. That's why we are organizing very important 2 calls for the scientific projects using the digital data and telemedicine. And this year we would like to allocate about 100 million euros for the calls for proposals, where we would like to address the artificial intelligence in oncology, in radiology. We would like to address the robotics and telemedicine. So probably these are the main trends around the Europe. We are also developing this year and next year in the Medical Research Agency the data management department, where we would like to gather the data, all the patient pathways, to be the backup for Sir Minister to make proper decisions in the healthcare system. There's also one very important thing I would like to underline, that the data coming from genetics might be very important in next few years. Currently, from my point of view, from my perspective, the personalized medicine model would be the model for next years. So also the data coming from our genome might be very, very important in personalized treatment, in, let's say, tailored therapies, because it might be the trends for the next few years. So we are working hard in the field of data management. We are trying to develop the scientific approach to use the data to show how important they might be in the digitalization of healthcare, because it might be the future of Poland, all the countries.
That definitely data is a new asset, and it's a global. So, Mr. Radosław, I would like to ask you how you perceive also the cooperation in Europe on making this data available for, let's say, all reliable European or liable European partners. So, because I think the Poland will benefit a lot from the data, which is, let's say, in Europe, not only in Poland, as well as the Europeans can benefit a lot from the data in Poland. And definitely what we are progressing, what you mentioned about the quality of data and the security of data is a crucial aspect. So what do you think about the cooperation in Europe? Is it is it progressing enough? Is it good enough? I mean, COVID changed a lot, and nowadays we have a new momentum, new dimension, horrible impact for this.
Yes, it is a very good question. I think we are at the beginning of this journey. We are starting this chapter in our, healthcare history. I think it is moving not as fast as it should, because the contribution around all the countries and all the parties and the partnership might be crucial for the development and unification of the data quality. It means that the data in Poland should be the same standard in Germany as in England and other countries. And I think it is possible to create the same format of the data, which will give us the perspective how to make the proper decision, what is the current status of this decision, and how does these decisions are affecting the societies. Probably there are also some legislative problems in Poland which we have to solve for the next few months or years to have the proper harmonization of the European law in this field, and to be sure that all the data are secure and safe for our patients and are used only for those who have responsibility to use it.
Thank you a lot. I think now we are good moment to have this perspective of a global company. So I will ask Michał Kępowicz to share his, view on this global use of data and how it is organized and how global company contribute to this process of reshaping the healthcare system toward data oriented.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to this panel, but also for a very interesting question. Actually, we are involved in different projects and initiatives at the European level. Philips is involved in many strategic medtech initiatives. As you probably know, at Philips we are focused on improving people's health and well-being. Our goal is to enable better outcomes across the health continuum. In the EU, there are hundreds, maybe also even thousands of initiatives that involve health and life science related data management. Most patient data is stored across healthcare providers, hospital healthcare professionals, imaging clinics, lab, in disparate systems that are not interoperable. To have a homogeneous communicable IT organism requires standards and unity of language to exchange key information across entities and across borders. It also needs industry collaboration, exchanging best practices and associated policy recommendation, as well as, but not least, public funding, public money to invest in such initiatives. So that is why thinking about the effective collaboration towards European IT healthcare ecosystem, we have been engaged in Gaia X Initiative from very beginning. Gaia X is a project led by representatives from business, politics, and science from Europe and around the globe to create a federated and secure data infrastructure for healthcare. The architecture of Gaia X is based on principle of decentralization. Gaia X is the result of multitude of individual platform environment that followed a common standard, the Gaia X standard. So we are developing together with others data infrastructure based on values of openness, transparency, and trust, and secure approach. Open standard-based data interoperability is a cornerstone of the EU digital single market and European health data space, as well as digital ambition and strategies of individual member states. So we are involved in these initiatives because we believe in fully secured and full smooth flow of medical data across European community.
Thank you, Michał, for these comments. I think we will come back to the Gaia X as a great example of the European project. I mean, pan-European project with, let's say, good involvement. I mean, efficient and effective involvement of different stakeholders to address this fundamental issue of sharing data and also being inclusive. And I think, but now I would like to ask Rafał Szmuc from, I mean, different angle about the same story, because we have the potential of the talented people, which create a lot of startups. And how you feel that? What do you think about the European ecosystem to be able to integrate startups and the new talented people with the, let's say, flexible, agile approach to solving these problems?
Well, thank you for inviting such a small entity to the audience of the big companies, audience, and agencies. This really brings a lot of hope to us because we do believe that that's really good that we are discussing the European health data space these times, because these times needs the unity. Today, situation also shows that helping Ukraine, for example, is also helping them thanks to the technology. And the technology brings really the powerful stream of data between all the stakeholders. Once the Ukraine would join the European Union, they will be in our space of data exchange. So anything what we're gonna discuss today, hopefully, will support the situation. But going back to the topic you asked me, first, that's very good. Second, our startup, data science focused startup in medicine approach and view is that we in the European Union tackling really difficult matter. The simple comparison is that there are more than 20 countries, more than 20 languages in Europe, and we are trying to combine the exchange, as Mr. Bursig said, the exchange of messages between these all the countries in one health data space. That's really challenging. So thanks to the technology, we do believe that this is our approach in CliniNote, that what you said before, the data are the kind of new asset, new currency. And we believe that it may be a new language, new common language for the healthcare. Because basing on the data we are exchanging, the facts, figures, real world data collected in real time, we really bring the new quality of the data used by the professionals. They may use not only Italian or Polish or French information because they understand the language, the natural language, but they will be able simply to use the European data, the populational health data. So that's really something what we call the interoperability. We have to have. So we are focused on in CliniNote on creating the agnostic, language agnostic, system agnostic method of data collection, healthcare data collection. Yeah. So that's what we are doing. But on the other hand, we do believe that creating in this diversity, creating the common health data space and the tools which are allowing to collect the language agnostic data, we will win the enormous advantage in the world, because we are the kind of laboratory where the really global solution may grow. Tackling 24 languages means that we can spread this solution over the world, inviting any other language. We may imagine Thai or Chinese or even Russian or Ukrainian. That's really our goal. So I think that's what we are facing, and the solution is to create a new language within the data. That's our approach.
Thank you. Very ambitious, and looking for the value coming from this approach. That's amazing. Hans-Peter, I would like now you to share maybe because you have over 2 decades of experience in digital health. You still mention we are in the beginning of the journey, and we have to be persistent. And if you can give us some hints and hope that we are progressing in good direction, and what would be your suggestions, recommendations concerning how we can use the power of digital transformation to reshape health system, to be on the patient side, as the patient is ultimate objectives of our work, not the technology. Is the interoperability, is the federal architecture, is cooperation a right word? Is the new legislation you have already mentioned something which gives us a new tool to be efficient and effective in this task?
Yes, I think that, as you said, I'm dealing with digital health for 20 years now, so look where we are. So yes, we need to be persistent, but like Rafał Szmuc just said, think about it like mathematics. In mathematics, everybody immediately understands what you're doing, because mathematics is an agreed language. And you can say 1, 2, 3 or 1, 2, 3, but the figures are the same and people understand it. This is what we have to achieve with data in health. And yes, we can do that. If I look at another example in Germany, the Federal Ministry of Research has put out a project that is called the Medical Informatics Initiative. And they have set up consortia of university hospitals to share data on a specific medical question. It took them some time, but they have set up data integration centers where they can now exchange and share their data on this specific medical condition and do research with it. Agreed, it's in German, but still they have agreed on a data set, how to record the data, and they are interoperable and connected over, normally in the consortium, there are 5 different university hospitals all over Germany. So that's something. If they agree on something, well, I'm sure that others and larger groupings can do the same. And this is what the EHDS may bring us, and in combination with Gaia X as a technological base for that. And then, yes, we have a federated structure. That's also typical what we've seen in the German experience. Data are still there where they are today, in the doctor's office, in the hospital. They're just linked through the telematics infrastructure. and then they can be accessed under certain conditions. And if you have that in mind, and we remember digitization is about starting small and then scaling up and gaining speed. And I think this is what is the hopeful thing here. We have all these experiences and these practical examples, and we now see that they share a common element or several common elements. And now is the point of time, I think, this is the flexing point where it really is gaining speed. And we can agree on all these things because we will discover that basically we're doing all the same in healthcare. I mean, people are the same, healthcare is the same. We use different words, but still on the data level, the information is the same. Talking from my experience in ZVEI, an X-ray image is an X-ray image. It's not different in France, it's not different in Germany, it's not different in Poland. And if you find a way to deal with these images, well, you can deal with the same images in other countries as well, and you can share the information and bring it together and combine it in. I'm taking a lot of this of your time. I'm sorry for that, but you were giving me the thing and the possibility. What we have to accept is also this takes time. It takes time to bring the different parts of the healthcare system together and to support a joint solution or application. And we need to be flexible during this process because everybody needs to understand what this is doing and how it is changing the way they worked so far. And then they will understand, oh yes, there's a benefit when I'm doing this. And then they will be on board, and then this thing will gain speed. So yes, I believe taking this federated, flexible, interoperable approach is the right way forward, but we need to show people what it is bringing to them, and once they see it, they want more of that. That's my position. I'm still hopeful.
Thank you for this vision. I would like to ask Mr. Radosław to also share with us the experience what the agency is doing, because they created a lot of projects in digital health to foster the development of and commercialization of these solutions. But they also created the public-private partnership, which is, I think, the excellent example of cooperation, and also give another institutional dimension of this cooperation. So Warsaw Health Innovation Hub is one of a kind, I would say, in Poland, but appreciate if you could say more about this initiative.
Thank you very much. Of course, we are aware how the development of the data and public-private partnership is important. That's why we create a kind of, let's say, the second pillar of the Medical Research Agency. And beside our non-commercial work, what is the main part of the agency, we also would like to have close collaboration between the private companies around the world, which I am very proud of. There is more than 20 companies currently in the Warsaw Health Innovation Hub. The Philips are also with us on board, so we are very happy about it. We believe that, if I may give you just one keyword, which is always around our discussions, it is the data in the healthcare. It is not the new drugs, these are not the medical devices, but all the time we are talking about the data and the projects. We are focused extremely on the data solutions in the healthcare system. That's why this public-private collaboration model is defining the common goals of the private companies and the public, where the main beneficiaries are the patients. Because I believe that there are many common areas where public business partners have much better experience than the government, than public entities, and still there are some common goals which we can define together. We can do the matchmaking and then decide what might be the best solutions who are doable in the Polish healthcare system. It is extremely important, I think, to create the solutions which are, let's say, tailored for Polish healthcare, because some solutions which are possible in Denmark, in Great Britain, are not possible in Poland. And then some which are needed in Poland were never done before because of the specificity of our healthcare system. With a strong support of the government, we have created the hub. We believe it is also the first step to create the the Polish medical valley, we would like to somehow collaborate with the with the scientists from the academy, with the physicians, with the patients, with the IT guys who have great experience in Poland, and to match them with the private entities who are also interested in having some access to the Polish healthcare market, to see how does it work, what are the needs, what is crucial for some minister to make the proper decisions. And we are doing it. Some first projects are upcoming, so I hope, fingers crossed, to launch them in March this year, so this month. So we are starting to build some mutual trust, and I believe it might be the benchmark and something totally new, not only in Poland, but also in the countries around the V4 or the Middle Europe. So somehow we also might build the collaboration and doing some benchmark for such a collaboration model around the Europe.
Thank you. I mean, especially for this invitation for other countries to also participate, because digital is borderless, I say. And I would like to ask Michał Kępowicz if the European companies participating in these initiatives can be a global leader of this new industry. I mean, the digital health or digital economy. How you see our strengths? How you see this initiative supporting these ambitions?
Yes. I just wondering how we could support EU companies to be a global leader in digital innovative healthcare. Because this is not the simple question, and there is no simple recipe for building European potential in the field of digital healthcare. But on the basis of what World Economic Forum says, we can define some directions where we should go to have impact on the effective digitalization of European healthcare, as well as supporting European companies to be global leaders in this area. So they see, or we see, 4 crucial points to have impact on growing European companies on the global market. So the first one is leveraging industrial capabilities. What does it mean? So in Europe, we have a large base of well-established companies, the same in Poland, and a network of successful small and medium-sized enterprises, but this potential is sleeping and has not been awakened, and it should be awakened and fully used. Europe can play an important role here, using existing strengths and fund national industrial strategies for large-scale digitalization and integration. For example, through digital platforms that enable wider cooperation between sector and business. So that is why I mentioned about Gaia X, and I think that the perfect project and example is Warsaw Health Innovation Hub. The second recommendation is to open power of data access and trust, because European companies have established relatively not big data repositories, platform and customer networks, relating and comparing what we have in other non-European countries, in US or in China. At the same time, large global companies are now starting to integrate stakeholders and data across industrial borders, and this result in the momentum could put European companies at an unfavorable competitive position. So Europe could unlock its huge repositories of non-personal and anonymous public data for research, at the same time setting up new governance rules that will give citizens more control over their data. The third one, supporting talent and competing through digital skills and diversity. What I mean? We see that global internet giants such as Google, Amazon, Facebook are able to encourage the creation and adoption of innovation via intellectual assets such as knowledge and skills. They also use another, for example, mergers and acquisition. For example, in total, between 2011 and 2017, the biggest US giants made 60 big acquisition of European companies. They also able to pay significantly higher salaries than the market average. So Europe can continue to build on its strong education systems, at the same time attract international talent using strong education, but also same attraction coming from the comparative advantages in diversity and quality of life and improving salary options. And the last one mentioned in this very interesting report was leveraging public sector leadership in public procurement and standardization. Europe's large public sector is often seen as a brake on innovation rather than driver. However, it can play a leading role in the adoption of innovative technologies. So Europe should maximize the use of public procurement as a driver of innovation, establish common digital government standards for public services, and those enable more innovation in government technologies. So there are 4 recommendations worth addressing in the near future.
Thank you, Michał, for this good recommendation, and let's say just to the point. And Rafał, I would like to ask you, and from the perception of startup, is Europe a good place for, let's say, deploying innovation, scaling up the innovation? Do you feel that there's something missing, or what could help you on your journey?
Well, yes, my colleagues said a lot of very important things. So I have to agree with all of this, but I would focus on one very simple stuff, which is mostly related to being a startup. We are small, agile, focused on one solution mainly, and really fast. We are brave to fail and brave to check whether we have a right. But what we are missing is really the environment, kind of laboratory, where we can train our ideas, when we can check it. Following what Michał said, the market practice, the giants, the Google, the AWS, the Amazon, they simply shared something with us as a startups globally and let us really work on their resources. The European Union has a lot of resources, and including anonymized and free of personal data sets where we can really check our ideas. That's one of the really the dream we have in a startup, to have kind of laboratory where we can really work on the data on under different angles, with different ideas. So that's very simple. And the second very important stuff is really to be open and focus on development. As before we joined the discussion, Hans-Peter said that mainly the acts provided by the European Union are focused on protecting or prohibiting something. We have to really change it into that development of focus on first develop, then if it's gonna be great idea, let's think how to protect everybody in the room, let's say. So that's really simple. Let's focus on the development, on protecting something what we don't have, in fact, yes. That's maybe a simple approach, but this is how we work in startups.
Very pragmatic. And then I'd like to ask you for takeaway message from Hans-Peter and Mr. Radosław Sierpiński, just to close, to sum up our panel discussion. Hans-Peter, if you could share with us your takeaway message for digital health.
Probably I would like to come back to the previous round, and I would congratulate Mr. Sierpiński and the Polish ministry in setting up this health innovation hub. Because one thing I've learned in my contacts with startups is startups need funding, but even more importantly, they need business. What Rafał Szmuc just said, well, we want a laboratory to experiment, that's the development phase, but afterwards it has to be used.
Yes.
And this is what
Adoption.
I understand the HIH is sort of doing, like bringing people together and say, well, the Polish health system has a specific requirement or a special need. Is there a solution? If there is, let's do it. And I think that's the right spirit that we need here. Do things that are credible and have proven that they're going to work. And the takeaway message from me is I do believe that national health systems, as well as industry, have to approach the next stages of the development of digital health with an open mind and a view to the broad horizon. Interoperability as well as connectivity will be central to national e-health strategies, as well as product development, because this is what we've learned. Messaging is nice, but it's like replacing fax by PDF. Yeah, what do you do with that? You can read it, but that's it. You want more. And digital health systems, or not digital, digitized health systems are built around data spaces and applications that follow general rules and concepts. They are general, they are not nation specific. And that could make it easier for national health systems to adopt solutions developed somewhere else in Europe or in the world. But it could also make it easier for industry to scale up successful products in Europe. As we talked about the EHDS, if it's working in Poland or Germany, and it is built on data that you find in the EHDS, it will also work in Spain and Portugal and Italy and Greece and wherever you want. And that is something that we have learned from other areas of digitization in our daily life. This is how it works. In the beginning, there is chaos and everybody is trying things. And then we agree and we understand how this is working. And all of a sudden, you can use the same device, the same product all over Europe or all over the world. And I think this is what should give us not hope, but really confidence in saying digitizing healthcare is going to happen starting now. We know what to do, and we all agree that this is the way forward, and this is why the EHDS and the discussion about it is so great and so important for Europe. We've reached that consensus, and now we have to start doing it. And we can, because we all reached limits with the approaches we've taken so far. So let's look to the horizon, be patient, and do our work.
Thank you for these encouraging words. And Mr. Sierpiński, what would be your takeaway message?
Thank you very much. Thank you for the warm words from Hans. I'm very happy to do such a collaboration. I am also totally agree with you that the digital health revolution is still unstoppable. So we should be all aware that it will happen. We should be prepared for it. We should be sure that all the data are safe. And I also agree with you that we have to be brave and patient because doing the small steps forward on this good highway to make the e-health work, we are doing something really good and really need to create the innovative, sustainable healthcare system. I believe the digital revolution is crucial to move forward to create the new healthcare systems around the world. So as we said before, data has no nationality. We believe that it might be also the universal language to make some benchmarks, to make some comparisons, to decide what would be the best to create the, let's say, sufficient health policy around the world. So fingers crossed, and we are moving forward.
Thank you for this interesting discussion, for sharing the thoughts with the audience, and we hope that we manage to digitalize the healthcare system. Thank you again.